Hello, dear friends. I need to share something. YouTube stopped paying for my work, leaving me in a difficult situation. Many of you know what it's like to need a helping hand in tough times. That's where I am now, and I don't want to give up on you. I created a page on Buy Me a Coffee. You can help with donations when possible, or with monthly membership for exclusive stories. Every gesture means the world to me. Together, we'll keep these stories alive. The link is in the description. Thank you for considering helping me. Now, on to today's story. The ache in my lower back had become such a constant companion that I barely registered it anymore. What I did notice was the way my uniform blouse pulled tighter across my chest with each passing week, the fabric straining against buttons I'd already replaced twice, 4.5 months pregnant, and I was running out of ways to hide it. I pressed my palm against the cool marble of the bar, steadying myself as a wave of nausea rolled through me. The scent of seared duck and truffle oil from the kitchen usually made my mouth water. Tonight, it made my stomach revolt. "Cat! Table 12 needs water," Jennifer called from the hostess stand, her perfectly styled blonde hair not moving despite the rush of cold air from the entrance. "And Eddie wants to see you before the VIP party arrives." I nodded, reaching for the crystal pitcher with hands that had grown rough from constant washing. My reflection in the polished silver caught my eye, a stranger with pulled-back brown hair and shadows under her eyes that no amount of concealer could hide. A year ago, I'd been someone else entirely, someone who didn't flinch at her own reflection. The Meridian was the kind of restaurant where a single bottle of wine cost what I used to spend on shoes. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the river, crystal chandeliers cast warm light over white tablecloths, and the quiet murmur of wealth filled every corner. I moved through it like a ghost, refilling glasses, clearing plates, collecting the tips that barely covered my rent. "Thompson," Eddie's voice cut through my thoughts as I passed the kitchen entrance. He stood with his arms crossed, his jaw tight with the particular tension that meant someone important was arriving. "The Robinson party. 6 top in the private alcove. They're here for the wine auction preview." My hand found the edge of the service station, gripping hard enough that my knuckles went white. "Robinson?" "James Robinson." Eddie's eyes narrowed. "You look like you've seen a ghost. You know him?" The name hit me like a physical blow. I knew that name, knew the man who wore it, knew the taste of expensive whiskey on his lips and the sound of his laugh in the dark, knew the weight of promises he'd never intended to keep. "No," I lied, my voice steadier than I felt. "Just tired." Eddie studied me for a moment longer, then jerked his chin toward the alcove. "Well, wake up. Robinson doesn't tolerate mistakes, and neither do I. Jennifer will handle the initial greeting, but you're on service. They've ordered the 1982 Chateau Margaux for starters. A wine that cost more than I'd make in 3 months. Of course they had." I smoothed down my apron, checked that my blouse still concealed what it needed to conceal, and walked toward the private alcove with my heart hammering against my ribs. Maybe it wasn't him. Robinson was a common enough name. Maybe it was someone else entirely, some other wealthy man who commanded private alcoves and vintage wines. The alcove was separated from the main dining room by frosted glass panels and heavy velvet curtains. I could see shapes moving beyond the partition, hear the low rumble of masculine laughter. My hand trembled as I reached for the curtain. "Good evening," I began, my practiced greeting dying on my lips as I looked up. He sat at the head of the table, exactly as I'd known he would. Charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car. Dark hair swept back from a face that belonged in magazines or museums. Not in my carefully rebuilt life. His fingers drummed against the white tablecloth, a habit I remembered from late nights when he couldn't sleep. James Robinson. The man who'd promised me forever and delivered 6 months. The man whose child I carried, growing heavier with each passing day. The man I'd fled from in the middle of the night, leaving behind everything except my grandmother's locket and the clothes on my back. He looked up, and his hand stilled. For 3 heartbeats, neither of us moved. His eyes, dark as espresso, traveled over my face with an intensity that made my skin prickle. I watched recognition dawn, watched his expression shift from polite acknowledgement to something colder, more dangerous. Catherine. My name in his mouth still had the power to make me shiver. Not Kat, the way I'd introduced myself at the Meridian. Catherine, the way he'd said it when we were alone, when I'd believed his lies about legitimate business and clean money. The woman beside him, stunning in emerald silk with diamonds at her throat, glanced between us with sharp curiosity. You know our server, darling? We've met. His voice was controlled, but I caught the edge beneath it, the warning. Haven't we, Catherine? I forced myself to breathe, to remember where I was. A public place, cameras, witnesses. He couldn't do anything here. Wouldn't risk his carefully cultivated image. I'll get another server for your table, I managed, already stepping back. Someone more familiar with the wine selection. His hand shot out, catching my wrist. Not painful, not quite, but unmistakably a claim. A reminder that he could reach me whenever he chose. That won't be necessary. He smiled, the expression not reaching his eyes. Catherine knows exactly what I like. Don't you? The other guests at the table shifted uncomfortably. The woman in emerald pulled back slightly, her painted lips pressed into a thin line. But none of them would challenge him. I could see it in the way they avoided his gaze, in the careful neutrality of their expressions. Men like James Robinson didn't get challenged. Of course, sir. I pulled my wrist free, my skin burning where he'd touched it. I'll bring the Chateau Margaux. I made it to the wine cellar before my legs gave out. The cool, dark space offered no comfort, only the scent of oak and the distant clink of bottles as my hands shook. I pressed them against my stomach, against the secret I'd guarded so carefully. He knew. Of course he knew. Men like James knew everything eventually. The only question was what he planned to do about it. Above me, the restaurant continued its elegant dance. Glasses clinked. Soft music played. People who'd never worried about rent or food or whether they could afford prenatal vitamins discussed wine vintages and vacation homes. And in the private alcove, James Robinson sat with his party, waiting for me to return. Waiting, I suspected, to see if I'd run again. The 1982 Chateau Margaux sat in its appointed place, the label pristine, the bottle worth more than everything I owned. I lifted it carefully, cradling it the way I'd been trained, and climbed the stairs back to the dining room. Back to James, back to the life I thought I'd escaped. My reflection in the wine cellar mirror showed a woman in a server's uniform, her face pale, her eyes too wide. But beneath the fear, I saw something else. The same stubborn determination that had gotten me through the past 4 months. The same protective instinct that made me place my hand over my stomach every time I felt afraid. I wasn't the naive girl who'd believed his promises anymore. I was a mother. And mothers didn't run. Not yet, anyway. I returned to the alcove with the wine, my professional mask firmly in place. James watched me approach with the focused attention of a predator tracking prey. The woman in emerald had moved her chair slightly away from him, creating a small but telling distance. The 1982 Chateau Margaux, I announced, presenting the bottle with steady hands despite the tremor running through my core. Shall I decant it? Or would you prefer to taste first? Decant it, James said, his eyes never leaving my face. We'll be here for a while. The double meaning wasn't lost on me. I poured a small amount into his glass, watching the deep ruby liquid catch the light. He lifted it, inhaled, then took a sip with the casual expertise of someone who'd been drinking $1,000 wines since before he could vote. Perfect. His smile was a blade wrapped in silk. As always, you know exactly how to serve me. The woman in emerald cleared her throat. James, darling, Perhaps we should discuss the Rothschild collection while... Later, Victoria. He dismissed her with a glance, then returned his attention to me. Catherine, when does your shift end? Every instinct screamed at me to lie, but I'd learned the hard way that James had a talent for detecting deception. 11, sir. I'll have Patrick wait for you. We have much to discuss. That won't be necessary. I finished pouring for the other guests, my movements automatic. I have plans. Cancel them. The command hung in the air between us. Around the table, conversations had died. Everyone was watching now, though they pretended not to. This was the kind of gossip that would spread through certain circles by morning. James Robinson publicly claiming a waitress at the Meridian. I really can't, Catherine. He set down his glass with precise care. Don't make me ask twice. I met his gaze, saw the steel beneath the civilized veneer. This was the man who'd built an empire through calculated violence and strategic intimidation. The man whose business partners had a habit of disappearing when they became inconvenient. The man I'd loved before I understood what he really was. 11 o'clock, I conceded quietly. At the service entrance. His smile was a victory I couldn't afford to give him. But I had no choice. Not here. Not now. The rest of their dinner passed in a blur. I moved through my duties mechanically, clearing plates, refilling glasses, pretending not to notice the way James tracked my every movement. Victoria, his companion, grew increasingly brittle as the evening progressed, her laughter too bright, her smiles too sharp. At 10:30, Jennifer pulled me aside near the hostess stand. What's going on with table 12? Victoria Crawford just asked me who you were. Victoria Crawford? The name meant nothing to me. James Robinson's fiancée. Jennifer's eyes were wide with curiosity and concern. The wedding's supposed to be next month. It's all over the society pages. The floor tilted beneath me. Fiancé. Wedding. Next month. I need to take my break, I managed, my voice coming from somewhere far away. I made it to the employee bathroom before the nausea hit. When I could finally stand, I gripped the sink and stared at my reflection. The woman looking back at me was a stranger, pale, frightened, trapped. My phone buzzed in my apron pocket, an unknown number. Don't even think about running. Patrick is already watching the exits. We both know how this ends. My hands shook as I deleted the message. He'd been watching me for how long? Days? Weeks? How had I not noticed? Another message arrived immediately. 4 months, that's my calculation. Is it mine? I turned off my phone, my breath coming in short gasps. He knew. He'd known since the moment he'd seen me tonight, had probably known before that, had probably been waiting for the perfect moment to corner me. Eddie appeared in the bathroom doorway, his expression conflicted. Thompson, Mr. Robinson asked for you specifically to present the dessert wine. He's ordered the Chateau de Chem. Another impossibly expensive bottle. Another excuse to keep me near him. Of course, I said, splashing cold water on my face. I'll be right there. The private alcove felt smaller when I returned. The other guests had left, leaving only James and Victoria. She sat rigid in her chair, her diamonds catching the light like ice chips. James lounged back, completely at ease, a man who'd never doubted his control over any situation. The Chateau d'Yquem, I announced, pouring the golden dessert wine with hands that had stopped shaking through sheer force of will. Victoria's fingers tightened on her napkin. James, I'd like to leave now. I have an early morning appointment. Patrick will take you home. He didn't look at her, his focus entirely on me. I'll catch up with you tomorrow. I'd prefer you come with me. Her voice carried an edge of desperation. Victoria. The single word was soft, but it carried enough warning that she went pale. Patrick. Now. She stood, gathering her clutch and wrap with brittle dignity. As she passed me, she leaned in close enough that I could smell her perfume, something French and floral and expensive. "Whatever you think you're doing," she whispered, "it won't end well for you. James always gets bored with his diversions." Then she was gone, heels clicking against marble as she fled. I was alone with James. He stood, moving around the table with the fluid grace I remembered too well. Up close, I could see the details I'd tried to forget. The small scar above his left eyebrow from a childhood accident, the way his jaw tightened when he was angry, the exact shade of his eyes in low light. 4.5 months, he corrected quietly. "I've had you watched since you left. Did you really think I wouldn't notice when you started showing?" My hand moved instinctively to my stomach, protective. "I don't want anything from you." "No?" His fingers caught my chin, tilting my face up. There was no violence in the touch, but the threat of it hung in the air between us. "Then why keep it? Why not rid yourself of the inconvenience?" "She's not an inconvenience." The words came out fierce, protective. "She's mine." Something flickered in his expression. "She?" I hadn't meant to reveal that, hadn't meant to give him any more information than he already had. But the truth was out now, hanging between us like a challenge. A daughter. His hand moved from my chin to my stomach, pressing against the small curve with proprietary certainty. My daughter. I stepped back, but he followed, backing me against the wall of windows overlooking the river. The city glittered below us, oblivious to the confrontation playing out in this expensive alcove. "Tomorrow," he said, his voice soft and absolutely certain. "Patrick will collect you from your apartment. You'll move into the penthouse. You'll have everything you need, doctors, clothes, security. You and my child will want for nothing. I'm not going anywhere with you." His smile was cold. "Catherine. Sweet, stubborn Catherine. You were watched tonight. Do you know by how many people? 7. 7 of my men, positioned throughout this restaurant, tracking your every move. Did you notice the new busboy who started last week? Mine. The valet who parks your car? Mine. The woman who moved into the apartment across from yours? Also mine." Horror crawled up my spine. "You've been watching me this whole time. I've been protecting what's mine." He leaned closer, his breath warm against my ear. "You can come willingly tomorrow, or Patrick can be less gentle about the collection. Your choice." "This is kidnapping. This is family." He pulled back, straightening his cuffs with casual precision. 11:15. Don't keep Patrick waiting. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with the remains of their dinner and the wreckage of my carefully rebuilt life. My phone buzzed. Another message from the unknown number. Apartment 4B, 1247 Riverside Avenue. Margaret Davies waters your plants on Tuesdays. She has a grandson in Boston who never calls. You take the number 7 bus to work. Your favorite breakfast is black coffee and whatever's cheapest at the corner store. Should I go on? I sank into a chair, my legs finally giving out. He knew everything, every detail of my small, humble life. And now he was offering me a choice that wasn't really a choice at all. Come willingly into his gilded cage, or be dragged there by force. Either way, I was his again. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I took the bus to Margaret's apartment, climbing the familiar stairs with my heart still racing from James's ultimatum. She opened the door in her nightgown, her weathered face creasing with concern. "Kat, it's nearly midnight. What's wrong?" "Can I stay here tonight?" The words came out small, frightened. "Please, Margaret. I'll explain everything. But I just need somewhere safe." She pulled me inside without hesitation, settling me on her worn sofa with a blanket and chamomile tea I couldn't drink. My stomach was too twisted with fear to accept anything. "Tell me," she said simply, sitting beside me. So I did. Not everything. Not the full truth about James's business or the real reason I'd fled, but enough. That I'd been involved with someone powerful. That I'd left when I discovered I was pregnant. That he'd found me tonight and was demanding I return. Margaret's expression grew grim. Men like that don't let go easily. I know. I wrapped my hands around the teacup, seeking warmth I couldn't find. But I can't go back to that life, Margaret. I can't raise my daughter in that world. Then you have to disappear, she said quietly. Really disappear. Change your name. Leave the city. Go somewhere he'll never think to look. I'd considered it. Of course I'd considered it. But James's text had made the impossibility clear. He'd found me once. He'd find me again. And next time, he might not be so patient. I have a cousin in Montana, Margaret continued, her voice taking on a determined edge. Remote ranch. She takes in women who need to disappear. If you want, I can make a call. Hope flickered, fragile as candlelight. Would she help me? She's helped others before. Margaret squeezed my hand. But Kat, you need to understand. Once you go down this path, there's no coming back. You'd have to leave everything behind. This job, this city, your whole identity. My hand moved to my stomach, to the daughter growing there. What kind of life could I give her? Always running? Always looking over my shoulder? But what kind of life would she have in James's world, surrounded by violence and corruption? I was still wrestling with the decision when my phone rang at 6 in the morning. An unknown number, but I already knew who it was. Good morning, Catherine. James's voice was smooth, urbane. I trust you slept well. How did you know I wasn't home? Because Patrick has been sitting outside Margaret Davies's building since 11:30 last night. Did you really think I wouldn't track you? I went cold. Leave Margaret out of this. Then come home. Patrick will drive you to collect your things, then bring you to the penthouse. Simple. And if I refuse? The silence that followed was more threatening than any words could have been. I'd rather not discuss the alternatives, he said finally, but I will if you force me to. Shall we start with Margaret's grandson? The one in Boston who's been struggling with his small business loan? A word from me to the right people, and his application gets denied. Or perhaps we discuss your friend Jennifer at the Meridian. Single mother. 2 kids. Her ex-husband has been remarkably consistent with child support, hasn't he? Would be unfortunate if he suddenly had legal troubles. You're threatening innocent people. I'm protecting my family. His voice hardened. You. Our daughter. That's my priority. Everyone else is simply motivation for you to make the right choice. Margaret had been listening, her face growing paler with each word she could hear through the phone. Now she took it from my trembling hand. Mr. Robinson, she said firmly, this is Margaret Davies. I'm the one who suggested Cat hide. If you want to threaten someone, threaten me. I could hear James's laugh through the speaker. Mrs. Davies, how noble, but unnecessary. Catherine is already making the right decision. Aren't you, Catherine? Margaret handed the phone back, her eyes filled with resignation. She knew, as I did, that there was no winning this fight. What are your terms? I asked, my voice hollow. Terms? He sounded almost amused. This isn't a negotiation. Everything is a negotiation. I forced steel into my voice. You want me to come willingly, to not cause a scene, to pretend this is my choice. That has value to you. So what are you willing to give me in exchange? Another silence, this one thoughtful. You're right, he said finally. What do you want? Margaret stays safe. Jennifer keeps her job. Everyone who helped me these past months is untouchable. Agreed. What else? My own room. We're not sharing a bed. For now, he conceded. Until you remember why you fell for me in the first place. The arrogance in his voice made my teeth clench. I'll need my own doctor, someone I choose, not someone on your payroll. The doctor I've arranged is the best in the city. But fine, choose your own. I'll pay. And when the baby is born... My voice caught. When she's born, I want guarantees. About her safety. About keeping her away from your business. She'll be a Robinson, Catherine. That comes with certain realities. But I promise you, she'll never see violence. Never be in danger. I'll build walls around her so thick that nothing can touch her. Walls or a cage? I asked bitterly. With me, there's very little difference. At least he was honest. But she'll be safe, loved, given every opportunity. Can you promise her the same while working double shifts at the Meridian? The blow hit exactly where he'd intended. He was right, and we both knew it. I could barely afford prenatal care. How would I manage childcare? A safe neighborhood? The kind of future every mother wanted for her child? One more thing, I said, my throat tight. I want to know the truth. About what happened that night. About why you never told me what you really did. That's not a negotiation point. That's a conversation for later. No. Now. Before I agree to anything, I need to understand. He was quiet for so long, I thought he'd hung up. Then, I'll tell you. Tonight. After you're settled in the penthouse. The whole truth, Catherine. Everything you think you know, and everything you don't. Fair enough? It wasn't fair. Nothing about this was fair, but it was the best offer I was going to get. Patrick can pick me up at noon, I said. I need time to pack, to say goodbye. Noon works? And Catherine? His voice softened almost imperceptibly. I know this isn't how you wanted things to go, but I meant what I said. You and our daughter will want for nothing. That includes freedom, within reason. I'm not your jailer. Just my captor. Your protector. The correction was immediate. There's a difference. He hung up before I could argue. Margaret pulled me into a fierce hug. You don't have to do this. We can still run. But I could see the fear in her eyes, the understanding that running would only endanger her and everyone else I cared about. James had built his empire on knowing people's pressure points, on understanding exactly which threats would achieve compliance. He'd learned mine the moment I'd placed my hand over my stomach. I have to, I whispered. For her. At noon, Patrick arrived in a black Mercedes that looked like it cost more than Margaret's building. He was exactly as I remembered, broad-shouldered, expressionless, the kind of man who'd followed orders his entire life without questioning them. Miss Thompson, he said, opening the door. Mr. Robinson is waiting. I climbed in, leaving behind the small life I'd built, and stepping back into the golden cage I'd fought so hard to escape. The penthouse loomed ahead, all glass and steel and expensive views, and somewhere inside, James was waiting to give me the truth I'd demanded. I wasn't sure I was ready to hear it. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a building I'd only ever seen from street level. Patrick rode the elevator with me in silence, his presence a reminder that I was watched, controlled, never truly alone. When the doors opened directly into the foyer, I stepped out into a world that felt both familiar and alien. I'd been here before, 6 months ago. Had laughed in that kitchen, made love in that bedroom, stood at those floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the sun rise over the city, while James explained his plans for expansion. Carefully edited plans that had omitted the violence and corruption that funded them. Catherine. He emerged from the living room, dressed casually in dark slacks and a white shirt with the top buttons undone. The informality somehow made him more dangerous, more intimate. Welcome home. This isn't home. I set down my single suitcase, everything I owned fitting into one bag. This is a temporary arrangement. His smile said he thought otherwise. Patrick, that will be all. I'll call if I need you." We were alone. The penthouse suddenly felt smaller, the air charged with everything unspoken between us. "Your room is ready?" James said, gesturing down a hallway I remembered too well. "I've had it prepared with everything you might need. Maternity clothes in your size, prenatal vitamins, books about pregnancy if you want them." How thoughtful. The sarcasm felt like armor, thin but necessary. "My own gilded cage." "Your own space," he corrected, moving closer. "As promised. Though I hope you won't feel the need to hide from me for long." I stepped back, maintaining distance. "You promised me the truth, about that night, about everything." His expression sobered. "I did. Would you like something to drink first? You haven't eaten since last night." "How do you know that?" "Because I know you, Catherine. You're stubborn. You skip meals when you're stressed. You chew your bottom lip when you're nervous." His eyes dropped to my mouth, catching me in exactly that habit. "And right now you're terrified." "Of you," I clarified. "I'm terrified of you." Something flickered in his expression. Pain, perhaps, or regret. "Then let me help with that. Come, sit. I'll order lunch and we'll talk." He guided me to the dining room, a space I'd once thought elegant, and now saw as oppressive. The table could seat 12, but felt intimate with just 2 chairs pulled close. Through the windows, the city sprawled beneath us, people going about their lives completely unaware of the conversation happening in this expensive tower. "I met you at the Harrington Gallery opening," he began once we were settled. "You were there with your friend from the museum. You were looking at the Rothko, and you said it reminded you of your grandmother's description of the ocean during a storm. Do you remember?" I did. That had been the moment, not when he'd introduced himself, but when he'd understood the reference, had engaged with art in a way that suggested genuine appreciation rather than investment potential. "I knew who you were," he continued. "Catherine Thompson, museum curator, master's degree in art history. Grandmother raised you after your parents died. You lived modestly, carefully, with the kind of dignity that comes from having once had more and learning to appreciate less. You investigated me even then. I always investigate people I'm interested in. It's survival in my world." He poured sparkling water into crystal glasses. "What I didn't expect was to actually fall for you. That was the complication I hadn't planned for. So you lied to me instead." I omitted. His distinction was meaningless. "I told you I was in import-export. That's true. I told you I had business interests across the city. Also true. What I didn't tell you was that those interests included protection, influence, the kind of power that operates in shadows." "Criminal enterprise," I corrected flatly. "Say what it actually is." "Criminal enterprise," he agreed without flinching. "Built by my grandfather during Prohibition, expanded by my father, now managed by me. We've diversified over the years. Most of our operations are legal now, but the foundation, the connections that give us real power, those came from blood and fear." I'd suspected, of course. Had ignored the late-night phone calls, the way people treated him with a deference that went beyond respect. Had convinced myself that I was being paranoid, that successful businessmen always had enemies and complications. "That night," I said quietly. "The night I left. I heard you on the phone." "I know. You were talking about a man who needed to be handled. You said to make it look like an accident, to make sure there were no witnesses." The memory still made me sick. "I left while you were in the shower, took a taxi to the bus station, used cash so you couldn't track my card. Marcus Donnelly." James said the name like it meant nothing. "He was stealing from me, embezzling funds through a shell company he thought I wouldn't notice. The handling you heard about was his retirement package, a generous settlement and a one-way ticket to Ecuador, where he could live out his days in comfort as long as he never returned. I stared at him. You didn't kill him? I don't kill people for stealing money, Catherine. I solve problems, usually through negotiation, occasionally through force, rarely through violence. Marcus got to live because he was smart enough to cooperate when confronted. But you've killed. It wasn't a question. Yes. No hesitation, no excuse. 3 times. Once in self-defense when I was 19. Once to protect my sister from a man who would have destroyed her. Once because someone touched something that was mine, and I couldn't allow that to go unanswered. The casual admission should have horrified me more than it did. Maybe I was too numb. Maybe some part of me had always known. And now? I asked. What am I to you? Another possession to protect? Another problem to solve? He leaned forward, his gaze intense. You're the mother of my child, the only woman I've ever loved. The one person who saw me as something other than a weapon or a wallet. His hand reached across the table, stopping just short of touching mine. I let you go once, Catherine, convinced myself you were safer without me. That was my mistake. I won't make it again. Even if I don't want to be here, especially then, his certainty was absolute. Because want and need are different things. You may not want my protection, but you need it. Our daughter needs it. And I protect what's mine. She's not yours, I said, even though we both knew it was a lie. She's mine. She's ours. The correction was gentle but immovable, and I will give her everything I never had. Safety, legitimacy, a father who's present, a future without shadows, by keeping us in a cage, by keeping you alive. He stood, moving around the table to crouch beside my chair. This close, I could see the exhaustion around his eyes, the tension he carried in his shoulders. There are people who would hurt you to get to me. People who would see our daughter as leverage. I can't allow that. His hand finally made contact, resting over mine on the table. The touch sent electricity through me, memory and desire tangled with fear. I know I can't make you love me again, he said quietly. I know trust, once broken, doesn't repair easily, but I can keep you safe. I can give our daughter every advantage, and maybe in time, you'll remember why you fell for me in the first place. I fell for a lie, I whispered. No. His thumb traced circles on my wrist. You fell for the man I am when I'm with you. The parts of me that only exist when you're near. That was never a lie, Catherine. That was the truest version of myself I've ever been. The days that followed established a routine I hadn't expected. James left early each morning, his business requiring attention even as he made time to check on me. He'd hired a chef who prepared meals specifically for pregnancy cravings I hadn't admitted to having. A doctor, my choice as promised, visited twice a week to monitor the baby's development. I had my own room, as negotiated. But I found myself drawn to the common spaces, the library filled with first editions I'd only dreamed of touching, the balcony where the city spread beneath us like a promise or a threat. You're reading Austen again, James observed one evening, finding me curled in an armchair with Pride and Prejudice. 3rd time this month. It's comforting. I didn't look up from the page. Predictable. Unlike your current situation, he settled into the chair across from me, whiskey in hand. I spoke with your former employer today. Eddie sends his regards. My head snapped up. You didn't hurt him. I bought the restaurant. His smile was slight. Along with 3 others in the same ownership group, Eddie now manages all 4 locations. Substantial raise. Better benefits. He seemed pleased. You can't just buy your way through every problem. I can, actually. It's remarkably effective. He sipped his whiskey, watching me over the rim of the glass. Jennifer received a promotion as well, assistant manager. Her childcare expenses are now covered through the employee benefits package I restructured. Why? The question came out sharper than intended. Why do you care about them? I don't. His honesty was brutal. I care about you. They matter to you, therefore they receive my protection. It's simple mathematics. I set down my book, unable to focus on fictional romance when my own reality was so complicated. Victoria came to see me today. His expression didn't change, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Did she? She wanted to discuss wedding plans, seemed surprised to find me living here. I kept my voice neutral, clinical. She suggested I was temporary, a distraction you'd tire of once the baby was born. Victoria Crawford is no longer relevant to my plans. He set down his glass with precise care. The engagement was business. Her father controls significant real estate holdings. The marriage would have been advantageous. Would have been? I terminated the arrangement 3 days ago. Her father wasn't pleased, but he understood. Family comes first. The casual way he discussed breaking off an engagement made my stomach turn. You can't just rearrange people's lives like chess pieces. I've been doing exactly that for 15 years. He stood, moving to stand by the windows. Victoria knew what she was getting into. The marriage was a transaction, nothing more. She'll find another advantageous match within 6 months. And what am I? I demanded. Another transaction? He turned, his expression unreadable. You're the mother of my child, my daughter's future, the only person who's ever made me want something beyond power and control. He moved closer. Each step measured. You're the complication I never planned for, Catherine. The weakness I can't afford but won't eliminate. How romantic, I said bitterly. I'm your weakness. You are. He stopped just close enough that I could smell his cologne, feel the heat of his presence. And that terrifies me more than any business rival or legal threat, because I would burn this entire city to keep you safe. And that kind of vulnerability is dangerous in my world. His hand moved to my stomach, resting there with a possessiveness that should have angered me, but instead sent warmth spreading through my chest. She kicked today, I said quietly. During the ultrasound. Dr. Harrison said she's developing perfectly. Something softened in his face, genuine emotion breaking through the controlled exterior. May I? He asked, his hand already there but somehow waiting for permission. I nodded and he knelt, bringing his face level with my belly, his hands spread across the curve, gentle despite their capacity for violence. Hello, little one, he murmured. Your mother is stubborn. You should know that about her. She's fierce and intelligent and far too good for me. His thumb traced a slow circle. But I'm going to try to be worthy of both of you anyway. The tenderness in his voice undid something in me. This was the James I'd fallen for. The one who existed in quiet moments, when the armor came down, and I could see the man beneath the reputation. She needs a name, I said softly. We can't keep calling her the baby. Grace, he said immediately, after your grandmother. I stared at him, shocked that he remembered, that he'd paid attention to the stories I'd told during our brief time together. You want to name her after my grandmother? She raised an extraordinary woman. I'd be honored to give our daughter her name. He looked up at me, still kneeling. Unless you have another preference. Grace, I repeated, testing the name. Grace Robinson. Grace Thompson Robinson, he corrected. Your name matters too. The gesture was small, but it felt significant. A recognition that I existed beyond my role as his child's mother. James. His name felt strange on my tongue after months of avoiding it. What happens when she's born? What kind of life will she have? He stood, helping me to my feet with careful hands. Safe. Legitimate. I've been transferring more operations to legal enterprises. In 5 years, the Robinson name will be associated with hotels and restaurants, not protection rackets. She'll inherit a clean legacy. And until then, Until then, she's protected by every resource I have. No one will touch her. No one will even know she exists until I'm ready to reveal her. His jaw tightened. I've made enemies, Catherine. I won't pretend otherwise. But those enemies will never get close enough to threaten our family. Our family. The words hung between us, simultaneously comforting and terrifying. I want her to have choices, I said. To be more than just a Robinson heir. To be her own person. She will be. His hand cupped my face, thumb brushing across my cheekbone. She'll have everything we can give her. Your intelligence, my resources, freedom to become whoever she wants to be, even if she wants nothing to do with your world. Especially then. His smile was slight but genuine. I became what I am because I had no choice. My father's legacy demanded it. Grace will have choices. I promise you that. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that the man who'd built an empire on fear and power could also be a father who valued freedom and autonomy. But trust was a fragile thing, and he'd already broken it once. I'm trying, I said finally, to adjust to this, to believe you. But you have to understand, every day I'm here feels like losing more of myself. Then we'll find ways to give pieces back. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, chaste and tender. Tell me what you need. I need to work, to have purpose beyond waiting for Grace to arrive. The museum fired you when you left, but I could arrange... No. I cut him off. Nothing you arrange, something I choose, something that's mine. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. I'll have Patrick drive you to interviews, but the security stays. It was a compromise, a small crack in the cage, but it was something. 3 weeks later, I'd established a new rhythm. Mornings consulting remotely for a small gallery in Brooklyn, work I'd found myself, though I suspected James had smoothed the path somehow. Afternoons preparing for Grace's arrival, her nursery slowly taking shape with furniture I'd chosen, colors I'd selected, and evenings with James, when the businessman facade dropped and I glimpsed the man I'd fallen for. She's going to be beautiful, he said one night, his hand resting on my belly as we sat on the couch. 7 months pregnant now, Grace's movements visible through my skin. Like her mother, or stubborn like her father. I placed my hand over his, guiding it to where Grace was currently practicing her kickboxing. She's active tonight, preparing for her debut. His smile was soft, unguarded. Dr. Harrison said another 2 months. 63 days, I corrected. Not that I'm counting. Nervous? Terrified. The admission came easier now. What if I'm not ready? What if I can't protect her the way she needs? You won't have to do it alone. His arms circled me, careful of my belly. I'll be there. For every moment, every feeding, every nightmare. I'm not going anywhere, Catherine. I leaned back against him, allowing myself the comfort I'd resisted for so long. You've been different lately. Softer. You make me soft. He pressed a kiss to my temple. It's dangerous for a man in my position, but I find I don't care. What about Victoria, her father? Crawford accepted a substantial settlement. The real estate deal went through without the marriage. Everyone got what they needed. His voice hardened slightly. And Victoria has been encouraged to find opportunities in Europe. Permanently. I didn't ask what encouraged meant. Some things were better left unknown. My phone rang, shattering the peaceful moment. An unknown number, but when I answered, the voice was terrifyingly familiar. Catherine Thompson. The accent was Russian, the tone casual. Or should I say Catherine Robinson? I understand congratulations are in order. James went rigid behind me, his hand moving to take the phone. I held it away. something in my gut telling me this was important. Who is this? Someone who knew your husband's father very well. Someone who has questions about certain business arrangements that ended rather abruptly. A pause. I'm looking at your apartment building right now. 1247 Riverside Avenue. Margaret Davies waters your plants on Tuesdays. She's quite sweet. Ice flooded my veins. James took the phone then, his expression carved from stone. Dimitri. The single word carried volumes. This is a mistake. Is it? The voice on the other end was amused. You disrupt arrangements. You alter territories. You think there are no consequences because you're Antonio Robinson's son. But Antonio is dead, James, and the old agreements died with him. Margaret has nothing to do with this. But Catherine does. Your child does. Family is everything, yes? That's what your father always said. So I thought I'd introduce myself to yours. The line went dead. James was moving before I could process what had happened, phone already to his ear. Patrick, get to 1247 Riverside now. Extract Margaret Davies. Use force if necessary. A pause. I don't care if it's a public building. Get her out. He turned to me, his face a mask I'd never seen before. Pure, cold fury mixed with something that looked like fear. Pack a bag. We're leaving in 10 minutes. What's happening? Dmitry Volkov, Russian mob, my father's old rival. He was already moving through the penthouse, his phone pressed to his ear as he barked orders. He's making a play for territory, using you and Margaret as leverage. Margaret. Panic clawed at my throat. James, she's just an old woman. She has nothing to do with... She matters to you. That makes her a target. He grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to focus. Listen to me carefully. Patrick is getting her now. She'll be safe, but we need to move. There's a safe house upstate. We'll go there until this is resolved. Resolved? How? His eyes met mine, and I saw the truth there. The violence he'd tried to keep separate from me was about to crash into our world. However, it needs to be resolved. 30 minutes later, we were in an armored SUV, Patrick driving while 2 other men flanked us in a second vehicle. Margaret sat beside me, pulled from her apartment with nothing but her purse and the clothes on her back. I'm sorry, I whispered to her. I'm so sorry you're caught up in this. Hush. She squeezed my hand. I knew what I was getting into when I helped you. The safe house was 2 hours north, a sprawling estate hidden behind gates and guards. James ushered us inside, his phone constantly at his ear as he coordinated responses to Volkov's threat. He wants a meeting, he told me after the 10th call. Neutral ground. Tomorrow night. Don't go. The words came out desperate. This is a trap. Of course it's a trap. He cupped my face, thumbs brushing across my cheekbones. But I can't let him think he can threaten you. If I don't respond, it sets a precedent. Other rivals will see weakness. So you'll risk your life to prove you're not weak? I'll risk everything to keep you safe. He pressed his forehead to mine, breathing me in. That's what you don't understand yet, Catherine. You and Grace are the only things that matter. Everything else, the business, the power, the reputation, it's all just tools to protect you. Then hire more security. Send someone else. Don't walk into an ambush. I have to. His voice was gentle but final. This is the world I built. These are the consequences I face. But I promise you, I will come back. For you. For Grace. For the life we're building. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the unfamiliar bed in the safe house, Margaret asleep in the next room, while James made plans for his meeting with Volkov. At 3 a.m, he came to my room, sliding into bed beside me without a word. His arms circled me and my belly, holding us both as if we might disappear. I love you, he whispered into my hair. I should have said it before. Should have told you every day when we were together the first time. But I'm saying it now. I love you, Catherine. I love our daughter, and I will do whatever it takes to keep you both safe. I turned in his arms, facing him in the darkness. His eyes were open, alert despite the late hour. Don't die tomorrow, I said. Not a request, a command. Don't you dare leave us. Never. He kissed me then, soft and desperate. I'm not going anywhere. But as dawn broke and he dressed for his meeting with Volkov, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change, that the fragile peace we'd built was about to shatter. I watched from the window as he left, flanked by guards, his shoulders straight with the confidence of a man who'd never lost a fight, and prayed that today wouldn't be the first time. So, what did you think? Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and comment. Would you have made the same choice as her? Share with someone who loves these stories. There's always more at Emma Romance Library.